Welcome back to the world of online notes. I know you're probably about as excited as I am to get started, so here we go. Alright, first of all, I'm missing my little pen for me to write, so I'm going to be writing with my finger, so it's probably not going to look too good, but yeah, sorry. Alright, so we're starting the next chapter. Next unit is on muscles. We've already learned all the different muscles of the body, or at least a majority of them, all the important ones, but in our kitty cat. So now we're going to learn about the structure of muscle cells and how they're put together and how they function. So we learned the anatomy of muscles, now we're going to learn the physiology of muscles. So let's first take a look at our three different types of muscles. We've got right here our three different types: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. Skeletal muscles are the ones that we usually think of when we think of muscles, because they're the ones that account for the physical appearance of our body. They also help us move and talk and walk and do all sorts of things. They're usually attached to bones. There's a few examples where they're not attached to bones, but we'll say 99.5% of the time they are attached to bones and they allow for movement. Next type right here is a cardiac muscle, and cardiac muscle, like it sounds, cardiac refers to the heart. So cardiac muscles are therefore only found in the heart, only place ever. And then we have our smooth muscles right there, and smooth muscles are found in the gastrointestinal system, is where the majority of them are, but we find them also in our bladder, in our ureters, and in many hollow organs besides our heart. So if we take a look at the picture here, we can see skeletal muscles kind of are found grouped in bundles and have little stripes on them. Cardiac muscles also have stripes on them as well, but the way that they're structured is slightly different. And then we have smooth muscles that are kind of bundled but long and pointy. So we're going to take a look at what things to remember when looking at each of the different types of muscles. So some basic information before we get into the three different kinds is that skeletal and smooth muscles are called muscle fibers. So the muscle itself, or the cells that make up the muscle, are called fibers. Why they don't call them cells, I don't know, but they call them fibers. Then inside of the fibers are things called myofilaments, and specifically actin and myosin, which you may remember from biology. These are found inside of the cells. So here is a muscle fiber, or one muscle cell. You can tell because there's a big old fat nucleus right there. And so the organelles inside aren't your typical organelles. We've got all these other little things inside. Myofibrils and filaments and actin and myosin, and we'll get into more detail with that later. But that's what allows the cell to actually move. And a little bit of Latin for you. Myo, mys, and sarco all refer to muscles. So if you see sarcolemma, sarcoplasm, myotonic, things like that. Anytime you see those root words, that means we're talking about a muscle. Okay, now let's take a look at the three different kinds. Okay, skeletal muscles. Skeletal muscles are the longest of all the muscle cells because they can reach, up to like 30 centimeters long. So, something like that. That's long for one cell. Skeletal fibers, cells, have little stripes called striations, which is really hard to see on this picture that I picked. Sorry about that. But if you look in the textbook, look at the pictures of your packet, you will see lots of little stripies. Skeletal muscles are under complete control. You have the ability to tell it what to do, when to do it, how strong to do it. So we refer to these as being voluntary muscles because they're under voluntary control. So if I were to tell you to remember three words that go with skeletal muscles: skeletal, striated, voluntary. Okay, that kind of sums it up in a nutshell. Skeletal, because it's attached to your skeletal system. Striated, because they're covered in stripes. And voluntary, because you have total control over them. Now the next one, cardiac muscle, is found only in the heart, like we said. Here's a picture of cardiac muscle. And we can see there's some spaces in between them, not like the skeletal. And here's a diagram of the same thing. You see the spaces. You can see how the cells are not long and skinny, but they're actually kind of short and chunky. The cells are also striated. They have stripes, which is a little bit easier to see up and down on this picture right here. They've got these big old fat nuclei right here, usually one per cell, whereas in skeletal muscle you can have several nuclei per cell. Not voluntary, because we'd all be dead, because we'd forget to tell ourselves to our heart to beat. So good thing we don't have to think about it. So 3 words to think about for cardiac muscle: cardiac, striated, involuntary. So it's in the heart, it has stripes, and we have no control over it. Okay, and then the third type we have is smooth muscle. Smooth muscles found in the walls of hollow visceral organs. Remember, viscera is your guts. So visceral organs are the organs in your abdominal and thoracic cavities. Their main job is to force fluids and other materials through internal body channels. So they're the ones that get the water out through your body and get the food through and out of your body. They do not have any stripes, so there's no stripes whatsoever like the other 2 guys have. Not under voluntary control. We don't have to tell ourselves to move the food down and to digest. So what are the 3 words to remember there? Visceral, guts. Involuntary, no control over. Non-striated, no stripes. So here's a picture down here showing, again, nice big fat nuclei, long and skinny cells. And then here they are right here in diagram, so you can see and compare the 2. Alright, let's see. Some characteristics of muscle tissues. So what do all muscle cells or tissues have in common? One is excitability. Hello, cat. Excitability or irritability is the ability to receive and respond to stimulus. So get a stimulus and respond to it. Usually that stimulus comes in chemical forms. So neurotransmitters like acetylcholine is a big one, or even chemicals, sight and such. So the response of a muscle cell is in an electrical impulse. So we have little bits of electricity that go through our body, and every time that electricity gets sent to the muscle cell, that causes the muscle cell to contract. She's trying to step on my little pad thingy. Stay, kitty. A second thing that all muscle cells can do is they have the ability to contract. So contractility means the ability for the muscle to kind of do this. Okay, so our resting muscles are kind of like this, but when they have the ability to contract, they slide past each other, and that makes them shorten up. And when they shorten, that causes the bone that it's attached to be pulled, and that allows for movement. Third thing that all muscles can do is extensibility. That is the ability to extend beyond. So here's resting, contract, and then extend. So muscles have the ability to stretch beyond their resting state. And then we have elasticity, which is the ability to, after it's been stretched, to go back to its usual spot. So these 4 things, excitability, contractility, extensibility, and elasticity, are all 4 properties of all muscle tissues. Doesn't matter what kind. All muscle tissues. Cat, you're not helping. Okay. Functions of muscles. We got 4 main functions of muscles. 1, obviously, is to produce movement. Movement of the body, movement of blood, movement of digestive products, movement of excretory products, whatever. Second thing is to maintain posture. If it wasn't for muscles, we'd all just be a big old wet sack of noodles on the floor and wouldn't be able to do much. So it allows us to stand up straight and not fall over, hunch over, and so on. Third thing, it helps to stabilize our joints, or else our joints would constantly be slipping. So it's kind of nice, helps to keep them all in order. And the last one, which is kind of odd, is to generate heat. Every time we move, all our muscles move, we generate a little bit of heat, which is why when you're cold, what do? You shiver. And so when those muscles are vibrating past each other, that also helps to create heat. I found this picture here for you, thought was kind of interesting. It's when you look at muscles on Google Images, it shows you, the plain average dude with his plain old average muscles. I like this one because it shows the muscles just all ripped and huge and everything. So you can kind of compare those muscles to those that we saw on the cat and see which ones are similar, different, and so on, and how much bigger and smaller ours may be compared to this ginormous man here. Okay, so that's about it for just an introduction into muscles. We're going to move on the next one. We're going to take a look at specifically skeletal muscles. Everything there is to know about skeletal muscles, because those are the ones that make up the majority of our body. So we're going to learn everything there is to know about those, how they move and so on, and then we'll move on to cardiac and smooth muscles after that. So welcome back, and last chapter before finals, so give it all you got, guys. All right, I lost my little thing. Where'd it go? Hang on. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.